So this morning I was super fired up at 4 a.m. when my alarm went off because I was headed up to Oshkosh, Wisconsin for the privilege of being a participant rather than a presenter in a leadership intensive. And so I was raring to go, 5:30 departure time, and it was about 5:35 and thunder shook our entire house. So of course, Bob reminded me that if I had left on time, then I wouldn't be behind the storm, I would be in front of the storm. And so here's the deal. I used to run into the storm. Now I know that I'm okay in the storm. But I did as Bob said, and I hurried up and got in my car, and he promised me, based on the radar, which was completely red, that I could outrun the storm. So I trusted my man, and I got in my car. And just as I made the turn, I looked left, and the sky was completely black. I mean, it was black. But shining through was this rainbow. And of course, I tried to take a picture of it while I was driving. Anyway, this beautiful rainbow that reminded me that God keeps his promises. That when he says he's going to do something, he does it. Unlike some people who didn't keep their promises, God keeps his promises. I looked to the right, and it was the most beautiful picture of the sun rising to the right. As it was storming to the left, the sun was rising to the right. I was reminded about a shifted perspective. In that when we see things from a perspective of faith, we know that God is the shelter not only from the storm, but in the storm. That we can be okay even though things don't feel okay. See, the reason I don't like storms is because they're uncertain and they're unpredictable and I have no control over them. It's the same thing about my life. It's the same thing about our life. When we do not feel in control, we become unsure and insecure. And if it's riding on us, we're filled with doubt and discouragement, sometimes even despair. I am here to remind you today that God is not only our shelter from the storm, but he is our shelter in the storm. And it was a super successful drive to Oshkosh because, as you can see, I have arrived to my final destination, which is why I don't have my seatbelt on anymore and while I'm not in a moving vehicle. However, only 2 people while I was driving honked at me and gave me the finger this morning. And it wasn't this finger. So I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day and you trust that God is in it all the time, every time. Look left, look right. And when there is nothing in sight that seems promising and predictable, you can trust God because he is the keeper of his promises.